Recording in progress. So, hello, Darrell. Uh,
Hello.
this is very exciting. This is the first episode of Danger Mouse, and it's probably going to be a car crash, which makes it
Excellent.
super exciting. And and there
In a
are people out
completely
there.
embarrassing way.
There are people out there that do not want this to happen because, to quote them, they say it'd be terribly embarrassing. So, there's plenty of motivation for us. So, Uh, I thought about introducing it, and that's too conventional. So I'm not going to do that. We're just going to plow on to random stuff. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you see my email with my questions? Do you accept those questions?
I'm completely confused by the second one, but that's probably the intent. I imagine that's where you're going to talk, is it? But I've done my 20 minutes worth of
No,
research.
no, no, because you're the one that talks the sense, and I just provoke you. But we'll see. So the first question was, and I think it's only fair in this world of connectivity and conspiracy theories, was that you have to prove that you're not an alien reptile. And I don't need to do that because it's just obvious I'm not. Uh,
Yeah.
so fire away
Who am I trying to prove it to? To the listeners, not the
to the
listener,
audience. Yes, I
to
think I
the
think
audience.
it's yes.
So I think it's a almost impossible question these days, but probably not for the reason that you think it is. So it's a bit like the tree falling in the forest. Does it make a sound thing? Um, Convincing people means you've got somebody listening and you've got somebody speaking, but every listening is different. So all of the experience we've had in the last probably 10 years, but certainly the last five, in effectively trying to write chatbots and do things that simulate human beings, then it's very context dependent. It's very dependent on who you're talking to. So the idea that there may be more than one person listening to this immediately says you've got a challenge because the words that might convince one person will completely not convince the other person. Depends on their experience, their values, etc. But probably the simplest answer to your question, I would say, just based on all the work we've done to write chatbots that people listening to the chatbot can't tell whether it's a chatbot or a human being, is the easiest giveaway is the what computers really struggle with is humor and irony and sarcasm. So if I answer your question in a sarcastic way, then that's probably the easiest way to distinguish between I'm an AI versus I'm a person. Um,
So in other words, what you've just done is prove you are a lizard.
I am a lizard. I'm quite happy to be a lizard.
No,
Um,
well, no, you're not. No, because they want to
it's,
destroy the world. So stop being happy. You're a lizard.
well, I might want to destroy the world because remake the world in my own
No,
image.
no,
What's
no,
the
absolutely not.
the world needs more Darrells, I think, because
Uh,
yeah, that means
because
people will do more thinking rather than going through life on automatic pilot, and that would be good.
would it
I
prove that
think it.
then?
I think it would be good. Well, prove it that it would be better if people thought rather than not thinking.
Well, don't
Uh,
the proof is too hard. Give me a persuasive argument that kind of gets me thinking about it. Because right, so let's just go for the premise that I'm thinking a world full of Darrells is like, oh my goodness, I think no, absolutely not.
well, I tend to agree with you on that. That would probably be a pretty bad world, wouldn't it? I think one is probably more than enough. But the idea of people thinking, that's probably a good thing, isn't it?
Well, uh,
Because
it
I would
depends what
say
they're
that,
thinking about, doesn't it? It
well,
depends.
I mean, I go through life these days thinking that um, people will do anything to avoid thinking. And that's working with corporate clients, usually, and people looking for an easy life. So that the idea of just give me the easy button that's going to solve my problems. That's what people are looking for, and I think in many ways that's the the heart of the problem with society. That there's too many people. We all live busy lives, and so we don't get a chance to think. But yeah, when I wrote my first book in 2002, I think almost the first sentence in there is, "This is not going to change your mind because it's impossible to change people's minds because people don't think." And I'm pretty certain that whatever my last book is going to be, the end piece in that last book is going to be exactly the same message.
Right, but so one of my favourite books, and no doubt yours, is Thinking Fast and Slow. Yeah.
It's okay.
Oh, it's only okay. Okay, well maybe we'll come back to that. But it's one of my favourite books, and well, basically it's saying that thinking is expensive in evolutionary terms,
It's,
so that we're optimized to do as little of it as possible because it burns up energy. Yeah,
yes,
that's the essence of it.
that is
Uh,
the essence of it, indeed. Yeah, yeah. So for most of our lives, that's a really useful characteristic. So I can get up in the morning, and get washed, get dressed, have breakfast, and not have any conscious thought at all. It's all done completely on automatic pilot, and that's saved me a lot of time and effort. Yeah, if I had to think about which sequence I put various articles of clothing on, then I'd still be getting dressed now, probably. So for most of my life, that's really useful. But um, all my work is in the innovation space, so that's why I get to the crux of this situation where people are not thinking. They're just on automatic pilot because it saves them energy, and that's fantastic for most of their lives. But now we're trying to innovate, and it's now going to be a disaster. It's going to stop you from solving the problem because you're just going to regurgitate the patterns that you've always had.
right. Okay. So what I keep getting possible future subjects popping into my mind, and one of them is, does actually train you to stop thinking? Is it like uneducating you? And don't answer it. Don't answer it because we'll come back to that one. Uh, Give me a smile. Give me a smile.
Okay, that's as close as I get to a smile.
Okay, that's good. So, and for the audience out there, all two of them, there wasn't really a smile there. It was not a good effort.
It was
Oh, there it goes.
average.
There it goes.
It was
So
average.
let's go on to the second subject, which I well, essentially, what is it? The second subject. I'm going to do one of my long leads into this. So I've been listening to Mustafa Suleyman, who is the geezer who sort of ran, probably other guys as well, a company called DeepMind, which beat somebody at Go and solved the protein folding problems, which are absolutely massive, epoch shaking, making things, landmarks in the world's history, in my opinion. And he's written a book saying, well, everyone should read it. He's written a book saying that we have to walk this or run this very narrow path between a dystopian government controlling our lives and a kind of Syria style collapse of society, and that those are and that's putting it mildly. With a lot of worse things could happen along the way.
Yes.
So I think that's something we're going to be coming back to. So, and then he then goes on to argue that, I mean, the obvious thing of just stopping technology advancing, putting a lid on it and saying no more technology, you don't want that, is just not sustainable. It wouldn't work, and there's historical examples of society trying to do that, and it doesn't end up well. So so it leads to something called the Great Dilemma, which is we need it, but it's going to screw us. So what do we do? Okay. So he then goes to argue pretty near the end of his book that we need to contain it in some ways, and comes up with a list of 11 things from memory. not going to discuss those now. So that had me thinking about containing things, and it just popped into my head like things always pop into my head at inconvenient times, that the Catholic Church, over a period of probably 1,000 years, was pretty much all about stopping people thinking things that they didn't want them to think, which is a containment effort. You got it? You with me now?
Okay, I get that. Yeah.
So, right. So I don't think as deeply as Darrell, as you've probably noticed already, but
We're really in trouble.
on the surface of things, I'm thinking, well, they've certainly played the authoritarian card big time.
Okay.
Agreed. Uh, but they managed to do it in such a way that people sort of kind of signed up for it quite willingly. A lot of people didn't, but a lot of people did.
Mm-hmm.
So there was obviously benefits given to them, and I also thought, well, maybe amongst the bad or nasty authoritarian things they did, and I shan't even. There's no point kind of going all over those because people can read the history books, and but maybe somewhere there was some good techniques. So it was just an idea, just an interesting idea. So
Hmm.
so does so does anything spring to mind, Darrell?
Well, so when I first saw the words Catholic Church written down, I immediately panicked because I'm thinking I've got my knowledge of the Catholic Church, or in fact any church, is probably you could probably write it on the back of the Pope's ring. And I'm kind of guessing that the Pope wears a ring, but um, the connection I make is that yes, you can contain stuff and you can um, prey on people's weaknesses and make that work in your favor, but it inevitably you eventually run out of road. So you look at the Inquisition, what 13th century, and you look at um, the I think it was called the Second Vatican Council in the 1960s, which is kind of like this. Um, it all comes to a head of all these tensions are built up because you can't keep manipulating people forever and ever because people see the outside world and realize, hold on a minute, that's not the truth. There's another world out there, and the church then has to kind of recalibrate and say, oh yeah, okay, well, yeah, I acknowledge that, so therefore it's okay to think this now.
Right, okay. So I'm I'm not even thinking about saying that it's a final solution in terms of containment. Okay, but
Yeah,
what I think what is needed right now is it's all about speed. Okay, so
no, yeah, totally. Yeah, so I think I mean that's I think that's where the similarity on one level breaks down in that that if you say okay, well every 600 years the Catholic Church goes through a crisis of belief, whatever it is, then the problem with AI is it happens at the speed of light. So you've not got 600 years to work out how to solve the problem and work out how to make things work to your benefit. What the world tomorrow is different from the world today, and I think that gets to the heart of the dilemma, really, which is that you've got space age technology, you've got humans with still Stone Age brains, to Kahneman and thinking fast and slow. But I think where his weakness is there's three fundamental parts of the brain, and our uh, core instincts are happening really, really quickly. And the AI creators, I think, understand that fast, slow, and the third part of the brain. And it's not a fair fight anymore. I think they can manipulate the average human, well, most humans, very, very easily because they understand and have taught the AIs how the brain works. So you've got space age technology, you've got Stone Age brains, And then the third part of the jigsaw, which makes it almost impossible, I think, to solve the problem. And I think the weakest part of Suleiman's book is those recommendations at the end, which are basically saying the only way we can contain this is through some kind of legislation. And if you look at the legislative bodies we've got in the world, they're still in the dark ages. I mean, government works today, almost literally in the same way that it worked in the Middle Ages and earlier than that. So you've got this fatal combination of space age technology, Stone Age brains, and Dark Age institutions in between. And the AI is it wins hands down because it can just do stuff faster.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to pull you up on. I think that's a vast simplification of his 11 kind of concentric rings of containment. So I think legislation was only one of those.
Well, I think that for me, that when I read it, I'm thinking they're all basically recommendations for the institutions that govern our lives, whether it's rules for the AI companies or rules for how you deploy the stuff.
Right. Okay. So there's two categories that. Well, okay. So firstly, there's the culture category. So sorry, I'm gonna wind back because the point I was going to make, I need to make more clearly, is that the name of the game is not right now solving the whole containment problem. Okay, it's slowing stuff down enough to give people, and probably with the help of AI, to give people with the help of AI ways of working out better containment levels that are going to slow it down a bit more.
Yeah, okay. I can
Are you
see
with
that
that? Are
as
you with
I
that?
can see that as a potential route out. I mean, I think all the stuff that we did last year, because last year was the year of AI in terms of the papers we published, the research we were doing, and almost all the scenarios you look at for how is this going to play out. Say you end up with totalitarianism. It's just a case of which flavor of totalitarianism do you end up with? Is it government led? Is it big company led? Or is it amused to death kind of Facebook entertainment industry? Turns us all into blithering idiots. Watching computer games and playing on social media all day. There is a way out, but it's by far and away, I think, the least likely solution. But it's the one that says, to your point, I think you've got to create the AI which is able to solve some of these problems and make people recognize some of these problems. And I think we've got a part to play in that because what's missing from the AI capabilities that are out there at the moment answer they can't deal with those dilemmas because they've been trained on data which is essentially data which is optimizing
Yeah.
systems
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
creating
Yeah.
breakthrough.
Okay.
So if you teach the AI how to solve contradiction, dilemma, then you've got some kind of a chance.
Okay. So we just touched on a theme that we're going to come back to again and again and again, which is contradictions, or as the dilemma, as he says in his book, Mr. Suleyman.
Yeah.
But putting your feet to the fire again. So the first thing he was talking, or that I don't think you've addressed, is the culture of all these people who are working on these systems, and it's not just AI; it's biotech as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Darrell, has got a very strong background in the aerospace. In fact, that's where him and I met. That's why the two of us are talking now, because we were both graduate trainees at Rolls-Royce Aerospace in Watford. Doesn't exist
Me.
anymore. And I bailed as soon as I could for personal reasons. And Darrell managed to last a whole 10 years, I think, or
I think
about that.
15 years. Yeah, 15 years I
Gosh,
was there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Scary.
So, and it's in the news again, aerospace, with that what Boeing Max and the door falling off, which is quite interesting. But it is, it's a kind of, they've had a culture there where they've basically eliminated, or as near as damn it, they made it the safest form of transport, which is
Yeah,
pretty incredible. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It
Uh,
is.
and to my simple mind, as far as I can see, that culture just does not exist. There's not even
Mm,
the start of it in AI. There's
yeah.
kind of bits and pieces in biotech. So I think that's got to be a good call. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, again, I see that all the time. It's I don't know if it happened to you when you left Rolls-Royce and started experiencing other company cultures, but yeah, I when I left after 15 years, I thought, okay, well, every company's like this. Every company sees the world in this way, and we're all very conscious of unintended consequences of doing things. Um, but when I started working with some of the biotech companies, and I've had to very rapidly stop doing it because I could see here are people who just do not think in that safety way, that they're quite happy to do experiments, have got no interest in potential consequences of those experiments, and you can very easily do an incredible amount of harm. And I agree with you. I think the AI sector is probably even worse in terms of unintended consequences and not thinking about these kind of things. And I think that becomes a significant element in the overall problem. So you combine enormous speed of change as soon as the digital world takes over, with people who are programming this stuff that have got no idea of complex systems for the most part, no idea of yeah, solving contradictions, dilemmas, no idea of unintended consequences. And you're now building up a recipe that says this stuff is unstoppable.
but when it comes to the individuals,
Yeah.
if uh, as you would like to do, they kind of thought about it more and they were presented with the kind of right information, the
Mm.
sort of thing that's in this, in the Coming Wave book. I've got I think there could be a movement uh, in those
Yeah,
industries. Yeah.
I can certainly see that. I mean, you take something as simple as the Dunbar number. So, I mean, you've got Mark Zuckerberg who says, "Oh, yeah, the reason that we've got these social media problems is because we
So
haven't
stop,
connected
stop,
it."
stop, 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 stop. What are you talking about? What's this Dunbar number?
I'll, I'll come back to the Dunbar number in just a second. I'm going
Okay,
to explain it in the
sorry.
context of Mark
Yeah.
Zuckerberg. So, Mark Zuckerberg says, like, the reason we've got all these social media problems, echo chambers, filter bubbles, etc., is because we haven't connected enough people yet. But
What?
what Yeah, that's
Well, that's a
absolutely.
bollocks.
Yes, well, of course it is. But you see, if you said to him and you said to all the people that worked for him, okay, well, here's the Dunbar number, and the Dunbar number basically says that the human brain is big enough for us to cope with about 150 people in our
Yeah. Oh,
community.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you knew that when you were writing these social media protocols and the algorithms, that you take light and blah blah blah, then you'd very quickly realize that Dunbar number plus all that stuff is going to create echo chambers all over the place. You're just going to fragment the planet into bubbles of about 150 people. And that is not a great way of connecting people, because as soon as you've got people with different opinions of the world in separate bubbles, so they can't even talk to each other anymore, you've got no chance of solving the conflict and the dilemmas. And therefore, you've just precluded the possibility of making progress.
Uh,
So on that sense, yeah, I think if I'm being generous to Zuckerberg and Facebook people, they're naive. I don't think they're receptive to the idea, because I think they're too interested in making money. But I think what goes from that is you only need one or two bad actors in this whole AI story, and you're now in a situation where, unlike historically, where one person, no matter how evil they were, couldn't make a lot of damage at all. Now you're in a situation where, a coder that with a naive perspective or an evil intent, programs an algorithm, and suddenly you've killed 10,000 people. Look at Myanmar genocide.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
then one person can do an incredible amount of damage at the speed of light.
Right, but So I think we need to separate all the disaster scenarios. Okay, I think they're almost in a separate category. It's like in terms of ordering of things, you need to get the basic system that's dealing with this technology. I mean, get it up to aircraft speed would be seems like a reasonable, reasonable goal. It's not. It's
Yeah,
not.
I mean, I'm reflecting on 30 years outside of Rolls-Royce, and in some ways trying to educate companies to think more about safety, think more about ultra high reliability systems, and have almost no impact at all. I mean, I don't want to sound depressing in this story, because
Okay, but
there are
I
solutions,
accept
but I
that.
don't
I accept that.
I don't think re-educating people to think about very high reliability systems is going to be fast enough. And and again, back to people don't want to think. Yeah, I mean, it's hard work.
Well,
Yes.
okay. So until yesterday morning, because I'd read the what's it called, The Status Game by Will Storr. Okay, and I
Okay.
love that book, and it made total sense to me. And I thought everybody is just motivated by their own status. Yeah,
Yeah.
and but it occurred to me yesterday morning for some reason that the question is why are they motivated to have as status as the number one thing? And I think it's because of fear, okay, which is the most fundamental driver for a biological organism is to stay alive, okay?
Yeah.
And having status is a pretty direct way of in the human society that is of giving you safety. You see that connection?
I think to an extent, yeah. I mean, I think going through evolutionary time and back to Stone Age brains, I think if you had status, then yeah, if there's a food shortage, then you're going to get the food. We're on that. I think on the other side of that coin is kill the king. Yeah, so
Okay, okay, I'm
there's
with
that
you, which
threat
is a
that
contradiction
says
there, isn't it? It's a
it is a
contradiction.
contradiction, which basically say the masses rise up and say, why is that person over there eating 50% of our food? Why don't we just kill him? And then we've got a more equitable society again.
Okay, but if we take it back a bit further in evolution, you've got your troops of chimpanzees going around, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is me thinking in real time. What? Yeah. So my analysis is wrong. So there's two things you need as a biological is to stay alive and to reproduce. Okay.
Yeah.
So certainly as a male, being the head of the chimpanzee tribe is super duper good in terms of reproduction rights. Yeah. So that is why you want to be the chief honcho because all the other male chimpanzees are hanging
Yes.
around and not
Yeah. So if I want to spread my genes, then yeah, I need to be the alpha male, right?
right. So anyway, this is all a bit of a diversion. So fear has got a lot to do with it. It's a big human motivator. I think we
Yeah.
can agree on that. Yeah. And so and that's behind a lot of these bubbles. A lot of the conspiracy theories and things like that is people are confused and they're afraid, and
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure
It's
why.
difficult to
Why?
establish the truth.
Yeah, yeah. So, but anyway, I think one of the reasons that in aerospace they've got this safety culture is because it's not very natural for humans to fly around. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
one of your number one drivers is to assuage the fear of flying. And if one of your competitors plane crashes, well, that hurts the whole industry because everyone says, well, we're not going to fly anymore. Yeah. So
Yes.
you then get the kind of herd action.
Yeah.
And so, but the trouble is, people don't, people can understand flying because they can see birds around and think, blooming hell, we shouldn't be doing that. It's very scary. So let's make it safe. Yeah. But trying to explain to people that AI is like way more dangerous than flying because instead of just crashing on you and killing, I don't know, 500 people, it's going to take, 1 billion people out or 2 billion or even worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
So which goes back to sorry, I haven't fully made the point. Goes back to what I was saying earlier about the film Oppenheimer or the Manhattan Project. There was a crisis, World War II, and they were developing a nuclear weapon. But as part of that, in a football stadium or something in the middle of a university, they built a blooming out of bricks and uranium, an atomic pile. So, and that is just so unbelievably nutty, yeah, and it's so
Yeah.
dangerous, yeah.
Mm.
But no, it was a new technology. Nobody knew what was going on. It was totally out of control.
Mm.
But at least if it went wrong, it would only take out Chicago. Whereas
Yeah.
AI and biotech, they are building them in a shed near you, and that applies to everybody. Well,
Yeah.
they will be soon.
Yeah.
And when it goes critical, it won't just take out London, or it could take out all the big cities in the world. Yeah.
Yes. I think, yeah, we're back to that. Yeah. One person can create an incredible amount of
Yeah,
damage.
exactly.
Yeah.
But
Now. Yeah.
if it was just like that is dangerous, and it's obvious it's dangerous in the same way as going 30,000 feet up in the air as an airplane is dangerous,
Mm.
then I believe that people driven by fear, if not more better motives, would think we probably want to make this a bit safer.
Yeah. I can well imagine a situation where the AI is looking across society and identifying that lone gunman type person who is the threat, and say, okay, well, yeah, here's a person who loses privileges because psychologically they're not to be trusted with this capability. I mean that in itself is I think highly controversial, but I think that's a potential mechanism because now you are talking about literally finding the needle in a haystack. You only need one person out of 8 billion who's the bad actor that can create an incredible amount of damage. So how do you find that one person? And the thing about lone gunman, yeah, you only need somebody who's treated badly for long enough, and it's easy to turn to become the bad actor. So yes, we're all tribal creatures from an evolutionary perspective, but you can now survive outside the tribe. Yeah, there is no food shortage that people have to worry about for the most part.
Yeah, well, okay, but again, I'm not trying to solve the problem. I'm trying to make things better. Okay, so
How's that different from solving the
uh,
problem is making things better, right?
well, well, actually, thinking back to the book, what Mr. Suleyman says is there is no ultimate solution. You're going to have to keep following this narrow path, and it's a chaotic world. It's a complex system, and new threats are going to rise all the time, faster and
Yeah,
faster and faster.
yeah,
So it's like the battle between viruses and bacteria in the ocean.
yes, but now at the speed of light.
It's a constant, yeah, it's a constant arms race going on. But if we talk about now and self-organizing systems, the little parts in that system are people, yeah. And if you can get them to self-organize because they're motivated and thinking this is really scary, it's our duty to keep an eye on things around me and behave ethically myself, yeah.
Yeah,
That would be way better than we've got now, yeah. And if you've got, I don't know, several billion people thinking that way, And the analogy I've just thought of is, I mean, it's murder, right? So that you don't need a what I have trouble saying words more than 3 syllables at the moment. One of those states to, you don't need the big brother to stop people murdering themselves, murdering each other, because the whole of society and the whole of the culture says that's generally not a good thing. Now, obviously, it's imperfect, but it's a much better starting point than saying, oh, the people down the road are working on how to, something that could be the most effective mass murder tool ever invented in the whole of human history. But, there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine, because that's what techies do.
Yeah.
You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I do, but I think it's again. I think I mean, I think there are solutions to all these problems, but I think
Yeah,
the window of opportunity is pretty small. So yeah, the one of the things I love from this evolutionary perspective is the Lee Child idea in his book The Hero, which so Lee Child, the Reacher author, what he's doing pontificating about evolution of man. But I think really nice
slow down,
idea.
slow down, slow down. I'm not familiar with that book. Is that one of his not
So
detective novels?
it's a non-fiction book. It's
Oh,
a very
okay.
small book called The Hero,
Right.
and it goes through the evolution of mankind. So I
Oh,
think
it does,
one
does
of the
it?
most
Okay.
one of the most compelling. I mean, this is done over a few pages, so I don't think it's a PhD thesis. But I think a really compelling idea is you look at Neanderthal man who had a bigger brain than Homo sapien,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so what was that bigger brain for? Well, yeah, I think it was because we're social creatures and it's all about how you empathize with other people. So you get to Ice Age in Europe, and Neanderthal basically goes extinct and human survives. Yeah, what was the difference?
Right.
So his explanation is, well, the Homo sapiens, us, were basically nut jobs. Um, so 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 what we developed is imagination. Yeah, so the Neanderthals were very much about social harmony, yeah, and that's what their bigger brain was used
Can
for.
see where
What
you
we were a
like
bit
this. Yeah.
interested in was imagination, and let's imagine a better future. So you're in the ice age, there's no food. What are you going to do now? That imagination, that ability to see a better world, is what gets you through the ice age. So what we've now evolved is basically a whole population, 8 billion nut jobs on the planet who've got this great imaginative capability that once you've trained AI to have the same nut job imagination capabilities, then you exacerbate the problem on one hand, but you potentially offer the solution to it on the other hand. But connecting back to Rolls Royce and ultra high reliability systems, you only need one bad actor, and you can bring the whole house of cards down.
Yes.
So, how do you design
Uh,
systems which are robust enough that you can identify that one person before they've had a chance to create that harm? That's one side of the problem. I think the other side is, there's always the next problem. And I completely agree with Suleiman's thesis there. There's always the next problem. But what is that next problem? What is the next thing? It's a contradiction. And that's why I think such an important missing piece in the AI story so far is the contradiction solving engine. The thing that says we need to go and find those contradictions rather than pretend they haven't happened, run towards those things and teach the AI how to solve them.
right. So I reckon you've just done us a good cliffhanger, Darrell.
Okay, cliffhangers. We like cliffhangers.
We like
We'll
cliffhangers.
we'll we'll write the AI software that's going to solve all the contradictions by the next episode, and the problem will be over.
Well, so speaking of the next episode, because there's going to be one of
Yes.
these every week, and
Yep.
oh, right,
Do I
this
get
is kind of
do I get
past quite.
do I get to
You get to
design
choose
the
the
questions?
subject.
Awesome. Okay. I'll 20 minutes before the next one that we're going to record, I will tell you what the questions are, so then you can prepare equally as in
I told
detailed
you
as
this
I've done.
morning. I told you this morning.
Yeah, but I was doing a thing.
Well, I'm going to do you a favour, okay? So, unless I change my mind, which is quite possible, my next one is going to be the artistic characteristics of Greg's sausage rolls.
Okay, do you know what? When you mentioned that over the weekend previous, that I did sit down and write a whole page of
Oh
garbage
my God.
about
Oh
Greg
my
sausage
goodness.
rolls. So I'm ready for that one.
Right, well, I'm not going to do it now.
Yeah,
Okay,
I've written a
Darrell.
whole page on it. Right then, end of
Cheers, then,
story.
buddy. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Nope.